it's really like a ring. Like, it's really my engagement ring. I love it. I bought it for myself from Walmart.
September 2024, Queen Naija stood in front of her phone camera, nervously laughing while showing off a ring on her finger. Not just any ring, an engagement ring from Walmart that she bought herself for $600. Why would a woman worth somewhere between $2.5 and $4 million buy herself a fake engagement ring from a discount store? Because after 7 years together, 2 kids, 3 cars she bought for him, and a $55,000 Rolex on his wrist, Clarence White still won't put a ring on it. Queen admitted she wears the fake ring in public so strangers think she's engaged, creating the illusion of commitment while living in relationship limbo. But before you judge her for staying, you need to understand where Queen came from. Because what happened in her childhood, in that chaotic house in Ypsilanti, Michigan, explains everything happening now. It explains why she accepts breadcrumbs, why she builds men up who tear her down, and why a voice that was prophesied to shake nations is being wasted on a man who can't even propose. October 17, 1995, Ypsilanti, Michigan. Queen Naija Bowles was born into chaos. Her mother, Riva, trying to escape her own suffocating upbringing, swung the pendulum completely the opposite direction. No rules, no bedtime, no structure whatsoever. When Queen sat down with Crystal Renee on Keep It Positive Sweetie, she revealed just how wild her childhood actually was. Banging pots and pans in the kitchen at all hours, running free with 0 consequences. It sounded fun, but the damage was already being done. And that damage, it still haunts her today. Queen admitted she's been chasing the bus since 5th grade. She's chronically late to everything. She left her purse on an airplane just days before that interview. But being disorganized isn't the worst part. The real consequence of growing up without boundaries is that she never learned how to set them with men. When you're raised in a house where anything is acceptable, you accept men who give you nothing while you give them everything. And that pattern was about to repeat itself in the most painful way possible. At just 19 years old, Queen married Christopher Sales. August 2013. 2 teenagers who met at a high school basketball game thinking they could build forever. They started dating in April that same year, and by summer, they were married. In 2015, their son Chris Jr., who everyone calls CJ, was born. And that's when everything changed for them. Chris and Queen launched their joint YouTube channel, posting pranks, vlogs, and family content. The channel exploded. Millions of subscribers watched them share their lives, raise their son, and play out what looked like relationship goals. But behind the camera, the marriage was crumbling, and it all started with rejection. Queen auditioned for American Idol. She made it to the Hollywood round, but she didn't make it to the televised episodes. For someone who'd been prophesized over since age 3, who believed her voice was anointed, that rejection crushed her. She'd been told her whole life she was special, chosen, destined for greatness. And American Idol said no. So instead of pursuing music the traditional way, she doubled down on YouTube. And that decision led her straight into the arms of the man who would change everything. But first, the marriage had to die completely. And according to Chris Sales himself, in his interview with Vlad TV, the reason was spiritual. He admitted they both lost their faith in God. We used to be strong believers in God, and then once we got access to the things that we actually wanted and the things that we needed, we got that stuff, we stopped putting God first, Chris explained. That's one of the huge reasons why we actually fell apart and everything started going downhill. When you abandon God, you'll accept anything. And what came next proved it. August 2017, Hurricane Harvey tore through Houston, where Chris and Queen were living at the time. They evacuated together, fled to Atlanta to escape the storm. But when they got there, Chris did something unforgivable. He packed his bags and left Queen in Atlanta while he went back to Houston, alone. Then almost immediately after returning to Houston, Chris left again for Los Angeles. Let me repeat that. He abandoned his wife in a strange city during a natural disaster to run to California. California. No explanation, no care, just gone. Queen followed him back to Houston, trying to save the marriage. And when she arrived, she found out Chris had been cheating. He later admitted it publicly in September 2017. But here's the part that nobody talks about. Queen wasn't heartbroken. She was already planning her exit. Because 1 month before Hurricane Harvey, 1 month before Chris abandoned her, Queen had been scrolling Instagram and found something that caught her eye. Or rather, someone. A model from New York named Clarence White, living in his mother's basement with big dreams and no money. Queen slid into his DMs first. They started talking. And just like that, while her marriage was dying, she was already lining up the next chapter. By the time Chris left her in Atlanta, Queen had already emotionally checked out. She'd found her replacement, and she was ready to make him famous. September 2017, Clarence Lorenzo White, a 23-year-old model living in his mother's basement in the Bronx, New York. No job, no money, just Instagram dreams and a clothing brand idea that hadn't gone anywhere. He was trying to become an influencer, posting photos and hoping brands would notice. And then Queen Naija noticed him. She slid into his DMs first. Started as friendly conversation. Clarence asked for her and Chris's clothing sizes because he wanted to send them hoodies from his brand. Queen encouraged him to start a YouTube channel. They followed each other on social media. Harmless, right? Wrong. Because Chris found exactly what was happening and made Queen block Clarence immediately. But fast forward 1 month. The marriage was over. Queen was living with friends while the divorce paperwork started, and the first thing she did? Unblocked Clarence. She found his new YouTube channel and watched a video that should have been her first warning. It was a smash or pass video where they showed photos of female influencers and rated them. Queen's photo came up, and Clarence's reaction? She's nice. She's spicy. I don't know about sweet heat. She's spicy enough. Not enthusiastic, not excited, just lukewarm. Adequate. Spicy enough. Like she barely made the cut. Queen later admitted on YouTube that his response hurt her feelings, but instead of recognizing that as the red flag it was, instead of understanding that a man who's genuinely interested doesn't respond with, she's spicy enough, Queen unblocked him on Instagram to confront him about it. And that confrontation turned into flirting. That flirting turned into plans, and those plans turned into her biggest hit. December 2017, Medicine dropped, the breakup anthem that would launch Queen's solo music career. And the lyrics weren't subtle at all. I'm a call a Brian, I'm a FaceTime Ryan, I'm a text Lorenzo, and I'm a leave you crying. Lorenzo, Clarence's middle name. She was literally singing about her side piece while still legally married to Chris. The song went viral immediately, racking up millions of streams in weeks. Genius, the lyrics platform, invited Queen to their offices in New York in January 2018 to break down the lyrics for their Verified series, and Queen saw her opportunity. She contacted Clarence and suggested they meet up for the first time and film YouTube content together. Business trip turned pleasure mission. They met face-to-face in New York, filmed multiple collaboration videos that now have millions of views, and according to people close to the situation, started their relationship right then and there. But here's what makes this even messier. Clarence had a girlfriend, Leslie, and Leslie later came forward with receipts about how she and Clarence used to watch Chris and Queen's vlogs together, completely unaware that Queen would become her replacement. Leslie said Clarence told her the relationship with Queen was strictly business, that he was only using her to get more followers and opportunities. He allegedly told Leslie, "This is business. You know that I love you and I want to have babies with you, and you're the girl that I want to marry." Leslie waited 5 years for him. 5 years. But Queen had something Leslie didn't. Money, connections, a record deal on the way, and she was ready to share it all with Clarence. Within months, Queen hired Clarence's sister as her personal manager, putting his entire family on payroll. Clarence quit whatever he was doing and became her full-time accessory, appearing in every video, every event, every photo shoot. March 2018, Queen signed with Capitol Records, and Clarence was sitting beside her at every meeting like he'd earned it. But he didn't earn anything. She gave it to him, just like she'd give him everything else. And he was about to show her exactly how little he appreciated it. While Queen was setting up her new relationship, there was another woman watching it all unfold, Leslie, Clarence's ex-girlfriend who'd waited 5 years for him. 5 years of watching him struggle, believing in his dreams, supporting his vision. She used to sit with Clarence and watch Chris and Queen Queen's vlogs together, completely unaware that the woman on screen would soon replace her. And when it happened fast. March 2018, Queen signed with Capitol Records, a major label deal that most artists dream about their entire lives. And at every single meeting, sitting beside her like he'd earned a seat at the table, was Clarence. He hadn't written a song, hadn't negotiated the contract, hadn't done anything except exist in her orbit. But there he was, reaping the benefits of her talent. Queen put Clarence's entire family on payroll almost immediately. She hired his sister as her personal manager, got his relatives involved in her business operations, and Clarence, he quit whatever side hustles he had going and became her full-time accessory. Every video, every appearance, every red carpet, he was there, not because he contributed anything meaningful, but because Queen couldn't imagine success without him beside her. But while Queen was building her music empire, trouble was brewing. April 2018, gospel legend John P. Key, an 8-time Grammy nominee and multiple Stellar Award winner, accused Queen of stealing the melody from his 2012 hit Life and Favor, You Don't Know My Story for her song Karma. His song had peaked at number 2 on Billboard's Hot Gospel Songs charts and spent 52 weeks on the charts. The melodies were identical. Same key, same tempo. The evidence was undeniable. John P. Key, a publisher with 35 years of experience, wasn't playing games. He publicly stated this was bigger than Queen, that her staff, producers, management, and agents should have handled it properly from the beginning. Queen denied it on Twitter, claiming the gospel song was nowhere in her mind when she wrote Karma and dismissing the melody as nothing crazy. But John P. Key wasn't backing down. He threatened a lawsuit and had his legal team meeting on their day off to prepare. And then Clarence made everything worse, much worse. His niece, R&B singer Lil Mo, went to war defending his uncle on social media. The disrespect Queen's fans were showing a gospel legend was unacceptable. But instead of Clarence staying quiet and letting Queen's team handle the legal situation professionally, he hopped online asking, "Who is Lil Mo?" Let me repeat that. Queen was trying to build an R&B career in an industry built on relationships and respect, and her boyfriend was publicly disrespecting industry veterans and burning bridges she'd need later. Lil Mo clapped back hard, calling out the fake church folk behavior, and an insider later told her something revealing about how Queen operates based on status. The pattern was becoming clear. Queen surrounded herself with people who elevated her, but the moment someone challenged her, Clarence would attack them online like an untrained guard dog. August 2018. Despite all the controversy, despite the legal threads, despite the mess, Queen and Clarence moved in together. She announced she was pregnant with their first child. And here's the kicker. Her divorce from Chris still wasn't finalized. The timeline was an absolute disaster. The optics were terrible, but Queen was too in deep to care what anyone thought. She was building a life with Clarence, even though every sign pointed to him using her. And the proof of that pattern? Chris Sales eventually revealed it on Instagram Live. When Clarence gave Queen a Birkin bag for her birthday, Chris exposed exactly how that gift actually happened. Claire Bear did not get her that Birkin. Queen gave the money to Claire Bear, and Claire got her the Birkin. She was literally giving him money to buy her own gifts so he could look generous on social media. The same pattern would repeat with cars, jewelry, everything. Queen bought it, Clarence took the credit, and she let him, because acknowledging the truth meant admitting she was being used. That's the Birkin bag blueprint. Find a woman with resources, let her fund your lifestyle, take credit for her success, burn her professional bridges, and never actually commit. Clarence had perfected it, and Queen, raised without boundaries, unable to recognize red flags, desperate for love, walked right into the trap.
October 2018, Queen's 23rd birthday, the day that made everyone realize exactly what was happening in this relationship. Clarence surprised her with a promise ring, and Queen, she was over the moon. Posted it on social media with the caption, "He told me this is just the beginning. I love you, Clarence, and thanks for always treating me nothing less than a queen. You're a real man, you add to me. I love this ring, and I'm blessed to have you. By the way, this is my first real diamond. I never had real diamonds." Her first real diamond at 23 years old from a man who was living off her. And social media had no chill. Someone said it looked more like a toe ring. Others called the diamond a canna hardly because they could hardly see it. The roasting was relentless. And then someone found the ring online. Tiffany's website. Want to know how much Clarence spent on the mother of his unborn child for her birthday? $600. $600. But wait, it gets so much worse. Because just days before Queen Queen's birthday, she bought Clarence a Rolex. Not just any Rolex, a $55,000 Rolex. She posted about it, calling him her real man who deserved the world. So let's do the math. Queen gave Clarence a watch worth $55,000. Clarence gave Queen a ring worth $600. That's 92 times the value difference. He spent less than 2% of what she spent on him, and she called him a real man for it. Social media exploded. The comments were brutal but honest. People weren't upset about the ring being small or inexpensive. They were upset because the imbalance was so obvious. Queen was building this man up, buying him luxury watches, putting his family on payroll, giving him a career, and he couldn't even spend $1,000 on her birthday. The unequal yoke was visible to everyone except Queen. She was too far gone, too invested, too desperate for this relationship to work. And she'd also put Clarence in a position to profit off her fans directly. Queen allowed him to charge people money to meet him at her shows, her talent, her fans. And Clarence was collecting meet and greet fees like he was the star. The audacity was unmatched. And the worst part? Queen thought this was normal, thought this was love, thought this was what she deserved. January 29th, 2019. Their son, legend Lorenzo White, was born. And that's when Clarence showed his true colors. Queen's mother, Riva, went to the hospital to meet her new grandson. She was excited, emotional, ready to support her daughter through childbirth. And Clarence denied her access to the hospital room. Let me say that again. A grandmother was blocked from seeing her daughter and newborn grandchild by a man who'd been around barely a year. Clarence later vaguely responded to the incident, implying some kind of disrespect happened at the hospital. But online users saw exactly what was going on. The disrespect probably happened after he denied Riva entry. That's when things got heated. This wasn't about protecting Queen. This was classic isolation tactics. Clarence was intentionally driving a wedge between Queen and her family so he could have complete control over her, cut off her support system, make her dependent on him alone. And it worked. The relationship between Clarence and Queen's family never recovered from that day. March 2019. Just 2 months after giving birth, Queen got a BBL, Brazilian butt lift. And according to people close to the situation, she did it because Clarence barely complimented her appearance. Think about that. She just had his baby. Her body went through the trauma of pregnancy and childbirth. And instead of him reassuring her that she was beautiful, that he loved her, that her body was perfect, she felt so insecure that she went under the knife. Years later, Queen would admit she regretted it. One thing I wish I never did, got fat added to my butt. I didn't think they was gonna do that much. She changed her body permanently for a man who wouldn't even spend $1,000 on her birthday, for a man who isolated her from her mother, for a man who was living off her success while giving nothing back. And the pattern was established. Queen gives everything. Clarence takes everything. Queen buys him 3 cars before buying her own mother a car. Queen funds his lifestyle while he collects clout. Queen changes her body to please him while he barely acknowledges her. And social media watched in real time as a talented, beautiful, successful woman destroyed herself trying to earn love from a man who was never going to give it. Because men who truly love you don't need $55,000 Rolexes to prove it. And men who truly value you don't give you $600 promise rings while living in houses you paid for. But Queen couldn't see it. Or maybe she could, but admitting it meant losing everything she'd built with him. And that loss felt scarier than the reality of being used.
The gift imbalance and isolation tactics were bad enough, but the cheating allegations, that's where everything gets truly dark. May 2023. Chris Sales went on YouTube answering juicy questions from his followers. Someone asked if he thought Clarence was faithful to Queen. Chris didn't hesitate. Me personally? No, he said. He'd heard stories, rumors that kept circulating, and then Chris dropped something specific. He claimed Clarence allegedly disappeared with some girls at a yacht party hosted by Kai Sanat, just vanished from the party with other women while his girlfriend, the mother of his child, was at home or out working to support them both. Chris went further, saying that with Queen gone all the time touring and making music, and Clarence stuck being a stay-at-home mom, he didn't think Clarence was being faithful. I know she knows that too, Chris added. Translation: Queen knows Clarence cheats. She just chooses to ignore it, because acknowledging it means everything falls apart. Clarence responded on Twitter saying Chris hates him and calling the allegations so crazy. Queen cryptically tweeted, "I get excited when stuff hits the fan because I know something great comes after that. Not a denial, not a defense, just deflection." And social media saw right through it. But that was just 2020. 2023. Things got exponentially worse in January 2025, Legend's 6th birthday, January 29th. The same day their son was celebrating another year of life, a woman came forward with receipts. She released DMs, allegedly from Clarence, screenshots showing conversations about sneaking around to see each other, messages that implied intimacy, and the woman claimed she might be pregnant. But here's the part that made everyone's blood boil. The screenshots showed Clarence allegedly sent this woman close to $6,000 in payments, multiple transactions, rent money, Cash App transfers, almost $6,000. The same man who gave Queen a $600 promise ring for her birthday allegedly had $6,000 for someone else. Let that sink in. He couldn't spend $1,000 on the mother of his children, but he allegedly had $6,000 for someone else. Clarence denied everything, said the receipts were fake, the voice notes weren't him, the whole situation was manufactured drama. But the math wasn't mathing. The patterns were too consistent, the allegations too specific, and Queen, she stayed silent. No public defense, no Instagram post proclaiming his innocence, just silence. Because defending him would require her to believe him, and maybe, deep down, she doesn't. And if you think that's wild, in 2020, someone released an entire book about their relationship, Queen of Lies, Parts 1 and 2. The anonymous author claimed to have insider information, insider tea, about how Clarence and Queen really got together and what was happening behind the scenes. According to the book, Clarence was allegedly escorting older women before meeting Queen, selling his body for money and opportunities. The author claimed that although Clarence left his girlfriend Leslie to be with Queen, he eventually went back and cheated on Queen with Leslie. People were convinced Leslie wrote it. She denied the allegations, said she had nothing to do with the book. But somebody with insider knowledge was talking. Somebody who knew the timeline, the details, the secrets, and everything in that book aligned with what people were already observing. The financial imbalance, the emotional manipulation, the cheating, the using. It was all there, written out like an expose disguised as fiction. And here's a plot twist for you. After Chris and Queen divorced, Chris started dating Leslie, Clarence's ex-girlfriend, the same Leslie who waited 5 years for him. Chris and Leslie got together, then eventually broke up because everyone in the story is messy and interconnected. But the fact that Chris dated Clarence's ex shows just how small and toxic this circle really is. But beyond the cheating allegations in the books, there's something more subtle happening. Something viewers noticed if they watched Queen and Clarence's YouTube videos closely. Queen constantly gushes over Clarence. He's so handsome. When I look at you, it's everything. Oh my God. She compliments his appearance, hypes him up, makes him feel like a king. And Clarence, he barely returns the energy, rarely compliments her back, sits there looking uncomfortable when she praises him. One clip went viral where Queen is going on and on about how beautiful Clarence is, and his response is basically silence. People said it sounded like she was the golden retriever and he was the black cat, constantly pulling away from affection. That body language tells the story the words don't. Clarence isn't in love with Queen. He's comfortable with what Queen provides. The lifestyle, the opportunities, the money, the platform. But love, genuine attraction, it's not there. And Queen can feel it, which is why she changed her body, why she buys him expensive gifts, why she tolerates the cheating allegations and the disrespect. She's trying to earn something he's never going to give her, trying to make herself valuable enough that he'll finally commit. But men who genuinely love you don't need convincing, and men who are faithful don't have multiple women coming forward with receipts every few years.
But despite the cheating, despite the disrespect, despite everything, Queen kept building her career. 2020, she opened for Mary J. Blige on tour. Major venues, different demographics, a legend, giving an up-and-coming artist a platform. And at the after party, Mary gave Queen one piece of advice that stuck with her. Take your time. Queen later admitted she doesn't know what Mary meant. Relationships, career, what? But the advice haunted her because Queen's entire life has been about rushing into marriage at 19, rushing into a new relationship before the divorce was finalized, rushing to have babies, rushing to prove she's worthy of love. Mary, a woman who survived decades in the industry and been through her own relationship struggles, saw something Queen couldn't see. Slow down. You're moving too fast. But Queen didn't listen. Fast forward to 2025. Queen Naija's net worth is estimated between $4 million and $5 million, depending on the source. She built that from YouTube ad revenue, music streaming, touring, and brand partnerships. Self-made from
from low-income housing to millionaire before turning 30. She has 2 sons. CJ, her firstborn with Chris Sales, is 9 years old. Legend Lorenzo, her son with Clarence, just turned 6 in January. 2 beautiful, healthy boys who watch their mother sacrifice everything for a man who won't marry her. And the toll it's taking on Queen? It's destroying her mentally. When she appeared on Keep It Positive Sweetie with Crystal Renee Hazlett, Queen opened up about something that's eating her alive. Mom guilt. Deep, paralyzing mom guilt. When people used to ask me that question, like, how do you balance it all? I used to be like, oh, well, it's easy, because it's not, Queen admitted. She's gone all the time, touring, recording, promoting, and her kids are home wondering why mommy's always working. But here's where it gets darker. Queen revealed where she does her real therapy. Not in a therapist's office, not with friends or family, in her car. I love to have my therapy sessions in my car. My car has seen every single tear that I've dropped, she confessed. She's screaming in cars, crying alone where nobody can hear her, breaking down in parking lots because the weight of everything is crushing her, and she has nowhere safe to fall apart. Not at home, because Clarence is there. Not with her mother, because Clarence destroyed that relationship. Just alone in her car, sobbing into the steering wheel. August 2024, their 6th anniversary. 6 years together. No marriage proposal. Clarence surprised Queen with flowers and a new car. And if you watch the video they posted, really watch Queen's face. You can see the devastation. She's trying to smile, trying to be grateful, but her eyes tell a different story. 6 years, 2 kids, multiple cars she's bought him, a Rolex, his family on her payroll, and all she gets is another car that she probably helped finance anyway. No ring, no proposal, no commitment. Just another expensive distraction to keep her from asking the question that's killing her. When are you going to marry me? And 1 month later, September 2024, Queen did something that broke the internet. She posted a video showing off a ring on her finger, an engagement ring from Walmart that she bought herself for $600, the same amount Clarence spent on her promise ring 6 years earlier. Queen stood there nervously laughing, saying she wears it in public so people think she's engaged, creating her own illusion of commitment while living in relationship limbo, pretending she has what she desperately wants because the reality is too painful to face. Think about that. A woman worth $4 million buying herself a fake engagement ring from Walmart, wearing it around strangers so they think someone loves her enough to marry her. That's not funny. That's tragic. That's what happens when you grow up without boundaries, when you don't know your worth, when you've been conditioned to accept scraps from men who should be giving you everything.
Queen has given herself what Clarence won't give her. The ring, the validation, the proof that she's worthy of marriage. But it's all performance, all pretend. Because at the end of the day, when she takes off that Walmart ring and goes to bed next to a man who's been with her for 7 years and won't propose, she knows the truth. She knows she's living a lie. She knows she's been used. But admitting it means losing everything she's built with him, losing the father of her child, losing the image of the perfect relationship she's been selling on YouTube, losing the fantasy that one day, if she just gives a little more, sacrifices a little more, changes herself a little more, he'll finally love her the way she deserves. So she bought a ring from Walmart, and she cries in her car, and she keeps pretending everything's fine while her soul screams for someone to save her. But nobody can save Queen except Queen, and until she's ready to face the truth, she'll keep wearing that fake ring and calling it love. While Queen's personal life was falling apart, her music career was thriving. 2024 into 2025, she was on fire creatively. Released Mutual Agreement, a smooth R&B track about setting boundaries in relationships. Good Girls Finish Last, an anthem for women tired of being taken advantage of. Missing You, a vulnerable ballad about longing. And Straight Out of Heaven, part of her collection that showcased her vocal range and emotional depth. The girl was working, creating, building her catalog while her personal life burned down around her. October 2025, Queen's turning 30, and she's dropping a new EP around her birthday that she's calling Queen-tober, a play on her birth month, branding herself as October's Queen. She recorded the project in Miami and came back saying it might be better than her upcoming full album. She's experimenting with new sounds, Afro beat rhythms, sexy drill beats, pushing beyond traditional R&B into genres that'll get her on TikTok, into clubs, onto bigger playlists. One song is called Put It On, confidence music, designed specifically for get ready with me videos. Strategic, smart, commercial. September 2024, Queen attended New York Fashion Week for the first time, sat front row at shows, rubbed shoulders with designers and influencers, and the experience opened something in her. She told the cruise show she wants to study fashion as a hobby, learn about brands and styling
storytelling because music and fashion kind of go hand in hand. She's thinking bigger, building an empire beyond just singing, thinking about her image, her brand, her legacy. She's also been streaming on Twitch, trying to build consistency with her fans. Queen admitted she's been impulsive in the past, dropping music randomly, then disappearing for months. But now she's strategic, rolling out back-to-back projects because she's tired of releasing good music and then vanishing. She wants to stay visible, stay relevant, stay successful. From the outside, everything looks like it's coming together. Multiple projects, fashion week appearances, streaming presence, a loyal fan base, millions of dollars. But internally, Queen is being torn apart by convictions so heavy she can barely breathe. On Keep It Positive, Sweetie, when Crystal Renee brought up current events and biblical prophecy, something shifted in Queen's energy. Crystal mentioned how it feels like Jesus is coming back any day now, how the signs are everywhere. And Queen's response revealed just how much spiritual conviction she's under about releasing secular music. I try not to watch the news and stuff. I'm looking at everything. The Bible is really unfolding and I'm like, dang, do I make this album? Do I put this out? Read that again. She's questioning whether to release R&B music because she thinks Jesus is returning soon. That's not casual faith. That's not Sunday morning Christianity. That's heavy, paralyzing conviction weighing on her every single day. Every time she steps in the booth to record a love song, she's wondering if God is disappointed. Every time she performs on stage singing about heartbreak and relationships, she's hearing those prophetic warnings from childhood echoing in her spirit. Crystal asked Queen about making gospel music, and Queen's answer showed she's already accepted it as inevitable. She said she's more so like she's just trying to get her relationship right with God so that she can hear from him directly. When I do that, I want it to be very genuine. Notice the word when, not if. She already knows the gospel album is coming, already knows she's eventually going to surrender to her calling, but she's not ready yet because surrendering means giving up everything she's built in R&B. It means admitting she's been disobedient this whole time. And Queen knows she's been disobedient. She told Crystal something that proves she's already imagining the conversation she'll have with God when she stands before him. She talked about not wanting to be dibbling, dabbling, doing this and that. When she finally makes the gospel album, she's already hearing what God will say, already knowing she's outside his will, already feeling the weight of using the gift he gave her for purposes he never intended.
The prophets told 3-year-old Queen that her voice belonged to God, not the world. They warned her not to use it for secular music. They told her what Jesus would say if she disobeyed. Depart from me, I do not know you. And every day, Queen releases another R&B song. Every day, she performs in clubs instead of churches. Every day, she sings about men instead of her maker. Those words get louder in her spirit. So here she is, almost 30 years old, multi-millionaire, successful R&B career, major label backing, thousands of fans. But internally, she's at war. The world says, keep going. You're successful. You're talented. You're winning. But her spirit says, you're running. You're disobedient. You're wasting your purpose. And Queen is stuck in the middle, trying to serve two masters, knowing it's impossible, but too afraid to choose. Because choosing God means losing Clarence. Gospel artists don't have live-in boyfriends with multiple cheating allegations. Choosing God means losing the R&B career. Gospel music doesn't pay like secular music. Choosing God means losing the image. No more fashion week, no more sexy drill beats, no more put it on confidence anthems, just worship, just ministry, just obedience. And Queen's not ready for that sacrifice. Not yet. So she'll keep making R&B music while conviction crushes her. Keep performing while prophecy haunts her. Keep building a career she knows God never called her to build. Until one day, the weight becomes too much. Until one day, she can't ignore his voice anymore. Until one day, she stops running. But that day isn't today. Today, she's still promoting Queen-tober, still planning Afrobeat experiments, still pretending the gift God gave her for his glory can be used for her own. And every night when she cries in her car, part of those tears are for the woman she was supposed to be, the gospel singer who could have changed lives, the worship leader who could have brought people to Jesus, the anointed voice that chose obedience over fame. That woman died the day Queen chose R&B over righteousness, and somewhere deep inside, Queen knows it. So let's bring it all back to where we started. The Walmart ring, the fake engagement that Queen wears in public so strangers think someone loves her enough
have to commit. That ring is a symbol of everything wrong in her life right now. It's a symbol of settling, of pretending, of accepting substitutes when you were created for the real thing. Queen Naija was told at 3 years old that her voice belonged to God. Prophets stopped services to tell her, your voice is for the Lord's. Don't use it for the world. They warned her what would happen if she disobeyed. And she knows. When Queen talks about making gospel music, she doesn't say if, she says when. When I do that, I want it to be very genuine. She already knows it's coming. Already knows the calling is inevitable. Already knows she can't run forever. But for now, she's still running. And look at what she's running toward. A 12.4 to $5 million net worth. A successful R&B career with hit songs that have millions of streams. Major tours opening for legends like Mary J. Blige. A Capitol Records deal that most artists would sacrifice everything for. From the outside, Queen is winning. But on the inside, she's crying in her car, buying herself fake engagement rings, carrying mom guilt that's crushing her, questioning whether she should even release music because Jesus is coming back. The success is hollow because she's outside her purpose. You can have everything the world offers and still be empty when you're living in disobedience. And Queen knows she's disobedient. She admitted it on that podcast. She's already imagining the conversation she'll have with God when she stands before him, already hearing him say what the prophets warned. Depart from me, I do not know you. That's not paranoia, that's conviction. And while she's building an R&B empire, look at what she's given to Clarence White. 3 cars before she even bought her own mother one. A $55,000 Rolex. His entire family on her payroll. His sister as her manager. Career opportunities he never earned. A platform he never built on his own. A lifestyle he could never afford on his own. She turned a man living in his mother's basement with Instagram dreams into an influencer with multiple income streams. She built him from nothing. And what did Clarence give her in return? Isolation from her family, starting with denying her mother access to the hospital room when their son was born. Cheating allegations from multiple women across multiple years. A $600 promise ring for her birthday after she gave him a watch worth 92 times more. 7 years of her life with no marriage proposal. 7 years of waiting, hoping, believing that if she just gives a little more, sacrifices a little more, proves herself a little more, he'll finally commit. But men who genuinely want to marry you don't need 7 years to decide. And men who genuinely love you don't need $55,000 Rolexes in 3 cars to prove their loyalty.
Queen has to decide, keep pretending or face the truth she's been running from since she was 3 years old. The truth that her voice was never hers to use for R&B. It was never hers to sing about heartbreak and toxic relationships. It was never hers to perform in clubs and on secular stages. Her voice belongs to God, and every single day she uses it for anything else is a day she's living outside her purpose. A day she's disobeying the calling. A day she's storing up regret for when she finally stands before her creator. But facing that truth is terrifying, because facing that truth means losing everything she's built. It means losing Clarence. Gospel artists don't have live-in boyfriends with cheating allegations and no commitment. It means losing the R&B career. Gospel music doesn't pay like secular music, doesn't get the same fashion week invites, doesn't trend on TikTok the same way. It means losing the image she's created, the successful, independent woman who does it all. Facing the truth means admitting she was wrong, admitting she chose the world over God, admitting she wasted years chasing a man who was never going to marry her and a career that was never part of the plan. So she bought a ring from Walmart and she wears it in public, creating the illusion of the commitment she desperately wants but doesn't have. And she keeps promoting Queentober and Afrobeat experiments and sexy drill beats. And she keeps pretending the conviction isn't crushing her, keeps pretending she doesn't hear God calling her back, keeps pretending that one more hit song, one more successful project, one more year with Clarence will somehow fill the void that only obedience can fill. But the prophetic words don't go away just because you ignore them. The calling doesn't disappear just because you run from it. And the conviction doesn't ease just because you keep pretending everything's fine. Queen Naija knows where this ends. She knows the gospel album is coming. She knows she'll eventually surrender. She knows she can't serve 2 masters forever. The only question is, how much more will she lose before she finally stops running? How many more years crying in her car? How many more fake rings from Walmart? How many more cheating allegations before she realizes he was never the one? How much more mom guilt? How much more spiritual conviction? Queen grew up with no boundaries, and now
now she's living with no commitment. She went from food stamps to millions, from low-income housing to luxury, from YouTube pranks to Capitol records. But she's still broken in the ways that matter, still waiting for a man to choose her, still running from the God who already did. The fake engagement ring is on her finger, the R&B album is ready, the prophetic warnings echo louder every day, and Queen Naija has to decide who she's going to serve. The world that applauds her success while her soul dies, or the God who's been calling her name since before she could walk. Her voice was never hers. It belongs to him, and every day she uses it for anything else is another day she's living a lie. But admitting that means losing everything. So for now, she'll keep that Walmart ring on her finger, and she'll keep pretending until she can't anymore.